Severe thunderstorms across Queensland, a developing tropical low in the Coral Sea, another system threatening Western Australia, Kimberley coast, and some of the hottest temperatures we've seen this summer. That's what we're re-looking at for the remainder of this week. Right now across Queensland, conditions couldn't be more varied. If you're on the Gold Coast, you're re-looking at 35 degrees forecast for Sunday. Bloody hot. Up at Mount Carbine, 30 degrees at 10:30 this morning with 85% humidity. You copped an hour of heavy rain last night. Minimum of 26. That's uncomfortable sleeping weather. Down in Carcoar, New South Wales, you are seeing a top of 26 with an overnight low of 14. Clear skies with small clouds moving through. That's pleasant compared to what Queensland is dealing with. The contrast tells you everything about the weather pattern we are in. Warm, humid air parked over Queensland, drier, milder conditions further south. That setup is driving the thunderstorm activity we're re-seeing today. And what coming over the next several days? Let me start with the immediate threat. Severe thunderstorms across central and southeastern Queensland. This morning, we've already seen activity around Charleville and the Carnarvon area. Nothing extreme, but enough to dump some decent rainfall. Further north around Mount Isa, a strong thunderstorm has been tracking for the past couple of hours. It's moved north of Cloncurry and Julia Creek, heading toward the Three Rivers area and into the Norman and Flinders River catchments. Heavy rainfall with that system, but it's not going to worsen the flooding situation up there. The water's going where it needs to go. Throughout today, expect thunderstorms scattered across central Queensland. We'll see activity around the Quilpie, Addervale and Charleville areas in the southwest. Also likely through the Isaac and Fitzroy catchments, north of Roma and inland from Rockhampton. These are what we call dumper thunderstorms. Very high instability, very low wind shear. They'll blow up like chimneys, dump heavy rain, then collapse on themselves. As quick as they develop, they all fall apart. The convective available potential energy that the fuel for thunderstorms is sitting above 3,000 in some areas. That really decent numbers for southwestern Queensland. You can bet there substantial humidity and heat driving this. These thunderstorms will be slow moving because there's bugger all wind in the lower levels of the atmosphere. When they do develop, they'll sit in one spot and dump, damaging wind gusts possible, heavy to locally intense rainfall, flash flooding in some areas, but they won't be organised or long-lived. Tonight into early Thursday morning, similar activity continues. Tomorrow, the focus shifts a bit further east, between Warwick and Toowoomba, out toward Dalby, Kogan, Chinchilla, Miles. Those areas can expect thunderstorm activity. Maybe a storm or two into the scenic rim as well, late morning and early afternoon. Brisbane, there'll be enough instability for a few thunderstorms to get going tomorrow afternoon, but nothing severe, nothing crazy. The proper thunderstorms will be further inland. This pattern continues through Friday, today, tomorrow, Friday. Inland Queensland, these dumper thunderstorms are the story. High heat, high humidity, low wind shear. They'll look impressive on radar, but they're really not going to be the organised severe storms that cause widespread damage. Now, as we head into the weekend, things get more interesting, particularly Sunday. That is when the thunderstorm risk increases for southeastern Queensland. Convective available potential energy builds through Friday, then really ramps up by Sunday. We're re-looking at numbers approaching 2,000 in some areas, especially into the northeast of New South Wales. Sunday is going to be the peak day for southeastern Queensland in terms of thunderstorm potential. We'll likely see widespread activity across the Wivenhoe outlook and through the South Burnett forecast district. Decent thunderstorms around Brisbane and Ipswich, particularly toward the scenic rim and Gold Coast hinterland, also spreading up into the ranges adjacent to the Capricornia coastline. A surface trough develops across southern Queensland, running from Windora through Charleville, across toward Roma, then connecting up to the coastal thunderstorms being fueled by moisture from the Pacific. Sporadic thunderstorms across western and southwestern Queensland as well. Sunday is the day to watch. Isolated thunderstorm activity, which means very hit or miss. But anything that does develop will be in a somewhat favourable environment and could get quite strong. I am not saying we're re-looking at a major severe weather outbreak, but the potential there for some solid storms. Nothing gnarly like we sometimes see, but worth keeping an eye on. Monday becomes interesting. Really interesting. The heat builds significantly across southeast Queensland. Convective available potential energy starts to get ridiculous. We are seeing a southeasterly change coming through and that ESSA trigger. This setup is very similar to what we saw on Monday, the 24th of November last year. That raises some alarm bells. The saving grace, and at S a big one, is the lack of wind shear. Looking at the 400 hectopascal winds, we are seeing shear between 10 and 20 knots. That's just not enough to support high-end severe thunderstorms. If conditions look very favourable in the lower levels of the atmosphere for severe thunderstorm potential, but there's not enough wind shear, you don't get the organisation needed for supercells or severe storms. However, if that wind shear forecast changes, we'd be talking about a moderate or even high-end severe thunderstorm outbreak. I reckon there's about a 40 to 50% chance the shear increases. At this point in time, Monday looks like a day with thunderstorm potential, but probably not severe. Keep watching the forecasts. If the Bureau of Meteorology updates their wind shear predictions, that changes everything. Right, let's talk about the tropics, because we've got not one, but potentially two tropical lows developing in the Coral Sea and another system off Western Australia, that S looking more organised by the hour, starting with the Coral Sea. We've got tropical low 16U, or what S, more accurately, 17U, developing right now. The system S currently sitting in the northern Coral Sea and it S struggling. The environment S not particularly favourable. We've got moderate to high wind shear, which is ripping the top off any convection trying to develop. Sea surface temperatures are warm enough, sitting around 28 to 29 degrees, but that's shear S the killer. What's happening is we are seeing two areas of low pressure trying to develop in close proximity to each other. When you get that, they compete for the same moisture and energy. Generally, one dominates and the other falls apart. In this case, the system developing right now, 17U, is more likely to be the dominant one. Here is the critical point. This system S too close to land. The North Queensland coastline is right there. Tropical systems need time and space over warm water to develop and mature. Being this close to land is generally bad news for intensification. The system doesn't have a good start to life and it's really going to struggle. Both of these tropical lows are forecast to remain weak. No serious impacts expected for the Queensland coast. Maybe some showers, maybe some gusty winds across far north Queensland and northern Queensland. But I would not be preparing or panicking about this system at all. Keep your eye on the radar, keep your eye on the Bureau of Meteorology forecasts, and if things change, you will hear about it. But right now, no risk, no threat, no point losing sleep over these systems. Looking further out, and we'll discuss this in more detail later, we're restarting to see signals of potentially a stronger tropical cyclone developing in early February. The AI forecast models are consistently calling for something to develop in the Solomon Sea and track toward the Queensland coastline. This is a longer range signal, somewhere between February 2nd and February 8th or 9th. Not something to worry about right now, but definitely a feature to watch. It lines up with long-range forecasts suggesting early February could see some tropical cyclone activity for the Queensland coast. We need to see the numerical models pick up on this signal before getting too concerned, but it's worth keeping on your radar for the next couple of weeks. Now, Western Australia. This is where things are getting serious. Tropical low 16U in the waters off WA is redeveloping. A new area of low pressure is forming south of Bali, southeast of Bali, southwest of Timor. It's expected to make a turn toward the southeast and move toward the Kimberley coastline later this week into the weekend. This system S found itself in a much more favourable environment than the Coral Sea lows. Wind shear is dropping off significantly. By tomorrow night into Friday morning, we are looking at a fully fledged tropical low, and pretty quickly after that, a tropical cyclone. The forecast models are coming to a consensus. A landfall or coastal crossing is going to occur sometime Friday night into Saturday morning. All four major forecast models are calling for roughly the same timing. late Friday night into Saturday morning, potentially as late as Saturday afternoon, depending on where the system comes ashore. More concerning is that the models are trending upward in terms of intensity. The ICON model is now calling for a Category 1, potentially even a weak Category 2 strength tropical cyclone at landfall. Wind gusts approaching 125 kilometres per hour. If you along the Kimberley coastline, you need to take note of this. People between Derby up toward Kalamburu should be monitoring this situation quite closely. If we see a tropical cyclone warning issued, and I reckon we will, you need to be ready to prepare for a Category 1, potentially Category 2 impact. I don't think this is going to be a problem for Broome. Too far south and too protected. I don't think Wyndham or Kununurra are at serious risk either. Even Derby is probably too far from the centre of circulation to see major impacts. The main concern is for locations along the exposed coastline, mostly Indigenous communities in that region. Those areas should watch this situation closely. Things can and probably will change over the next couple of days. This system S found itself in a more favourable environment this morning, and it is definitely worth watching right now. We'll be keeping close tabs on the development. Before I move on, I want to mention the aurora we saw last night. Spectacular displays across southern Australia. Reports of the aurora being visible as far north as Serena, just south of Mackay in central Queensland. If you are in Gladstone, some of you saw it looking south from Awunga Dam lookout around 9 o'clock. Gorgeous by all accounts. The colours were incredible. What made it surreal for those of us in Western Australia was the temperature, 32 degrees with a hot easterly blowing about 50 kilometres per hour. You think of the aurora, you think of Antarctica, Greenland, snow, temperatures of -10 to -60. And there we were looking at southern lights in 32-degree heat with a hot easterly. Felt completely out of place, but it was a really special night, much more spectacular than the display back in November. If you got photos, the colours would have been best the further south you were and the darker your skies. Tasmania would have had exceptional views. Right, back to the heat, because Western Australia yesterday was absolutely scorching. Shark Bay Airport recorded 49.2 degrees. That one of the hottest days on record for that location. In fact, I believe it was a record for January. Multiple locations across the Gascoyne and Pilbara regions hit between 48 and 50 degrees. An absolute stinker of a day. Perth reached 41. Very warm, but nothing compared to the northern regions. That heat's going to persist for the next few days across WA, particularly inland areas. If you're in the Pilbara or Gascoyne, you're dealing with extreme fire danger conditions. Total fire bans are in place. This is serious heat, and with the tropical low developing, we might see some gusty winds ahead of that system that could elevate fire danger even further. For those in the wheat belt and inland areas, make sure you rechecking on livestock. Provide shade, water, and check your animals regularly in this heat. If you've got elderly neighbours or mates living alone, give them a call. This sort of heat can be dangerous for vulnerable people. Let me talk about what you should be doing to prepare for what is coming. If you are in inland Queensland dealing with these thunderstorms today through Friday, the main threats are flash flooding and damaging wind gusts. These storms are slow moving. If one parks over your property or town, you could see 50 to 100 millimetres of rain in a short period. Make sure your gutters are clear. If you are in a flood-prone area, know your evacuation routes. Don T drive through floodwater. If it is flooded, forget it. That is the SES advice, and it is spot on. For southeastern Queensland heading into the weekend, particularly Sunday, just be aware of the thunderstorm potential. It is isolated activity, so it is a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Keep an eye on the Bureau of Meteorology radar. If a storm is developing near you, get inside. Secure loose items in the yard. Bring in outdoor furniture, trampolines, anything that can become a projectile in strong winds. Monday is still uncertain. If that wind shear increases, we could be looking at a more significant severe weather event. Don't panic, but stay informed. Check the Bureau S website regularly. They'll issue severe thunderstorm warnings if the risk increases. Western Australia, particularly the Kimberley coast, you've got a potential tropical cyclone bearing down on you. If you are in the direct impact zone, those Indigenous communities along the exposed coastline, start your preparations now. Stock up on essentials, water, non-perishable food, batteries, torches, first aid supplies, medications. Fill your vehicles with fuel. Secure loose items around your property. Anything that can blow away in 100km/h winds needs to be tied down or brought inside. If you're in a caravan or temporary structure, relocate to solid shelter. This is important. A Category 1 or 2 cyclone will destroy caravans and lightweight structures. Know your cyclone plan. If authorities issue an evacuation order, follow it. Don't try to ride out a cyclone in an unsuitable structure. For those in Derby, Broome, Wyndham, you are probably not going to see direct impacts, but stay informed. Listen to local emergency services. The thing about tropical cyclones is they can change rapidly. A system that looks like it is going to be Category 1 can intensify to Category 2 or 3 if conditions align. Equally, systems can fall apart quickly if they hit unfavourable conditions. Don't assume this will stay weak. Prepare for a Category 2 impact if you in the potential path. For everyone across northern Australia, we in cyclone season. November through April, this is when these systems develop. We've been relatively quiet so far this season, but that is changing. Keep your cyclone kit ready. Keep your emergency plan up to date. Make sure your family knows what to do if a cyclone threatens. Looking at the broader pattern across Australia over the next couple of weeks, we're seeing continued monsoonal activity across the north. The monsoon trough is active, which means regular thunderstorms, heavy rainfall, and the potential for more tropical lows to develop. This is typical for late January into February. Southern Australia stays relatively dry and warm. No significant cold fronts on the horizon for the next week at least. Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, you are looking at warm to hot conditions with minimal rainfall. If you are waiting for rain to fill the dams or help the gardens, it's not coming in the immediate future. The Indian Ocean dipole is currently in a neutral phase, which doesn't give us strong signals one way or the other for rainfall patterns. We're not in an El Nino or La Nina event either, so we're in neutral ENSO conditions. That means we're relying on shorter term weather patterns rather than large scale climate drivers. What we are seeing is an active Madden-Julian oscillation phase moving through the region. That is contributing to the increased thunderstorm activity and tropical low development. The MJO moves around the tropics in a roughly 30 to 60 day cycle, enhancing or suppressing convection as it goes. Right now, it's enhancing activity in our region, which is why we're seeing these tropical systems develop. Over the next 2 weeks, expect this pattern to continue. Northern Australia stays wet and stormy. Southern Australia stays dry and warm. The transition zone through central Queensland and northern New South Wales will see the most variable conditions, with thunderstorms possible but not guaranteed. The long-range models are suggesting early February could see a more significant tropical cyclone develop and potentially threaten the Queensland coast. That is still 2 weeks away, so there is enormous uncertainty. But it is worth being aware that the pattern supports tropical development and we're heading into the peak of cyclone season. For those in Queensland, particularly far north Queensland, this is your reality for the next couple of months. Regular thunderstorms, high humidity, potential tropical cyclones. Make sure you prepared. Have your emergency kit ready. Know your evacuation routes. Stay informed through the Bureau of Meteorology and your local emergency services. A few practical tips based on what we are seeing. If you're dealing with this heat in WA, hydration is critical. Drink water even if you don't feel thirsty. Avoid heavy outdoor work during the hottest part of the day between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. If you must work outside, take regular breaks in the shade. Wear light-coloured clothing and a hat. For thunderstorm-prone areas, now's the time to check your insurance. Make sure you've got adequate cover for storm damage. Take photos of your property and valuable items for insurance purposes. Clear your gutters and downpipes so water can drain properly when heavy rain hits. If you in a cyclone-prone area, review your insurance policy. Understand what S covered and what S not. Cyclone damage can be expensive, and you don't want to find out after the event that you are not adequately covered. One thing I want to stress, and this is important, is the difference between being prepared and being panicked. There's no reason to panic about any of these systems right now. The Coral Sea lows are weak and not a threat. The Western Australia system is developing, but we've got time to prepare. The Queensland thunderstorms are typical for this time of year. Being prepared means having a plan, having supplies, staying informed. It doesn't mean boarding up windows and evacuating when there's no threat. It means being ready so that if conditions do deteriorate, you can act quickly and calmly. Many of you have been through worse. You remember Cyclone Tracy, Christmas Eve 1974, winds up to 217 kilometres per hour. Darwin was destroyed. You remember Cyclone Yassi in 2011, Category 5. Devastated parts of North Queensland. You remember Black Saturday, the Brisbane floods, Ash Wednesday. These current systems don't compare to those events. But that doesn't mean you should ignore them. Every cyclone deserves respect. Every severe thunderstorm outbreak deserves preparation. You can predict which storm will be the one that causes damage to your property, so you prepare for all of them. The weather over the next week is going to be active across northern Australia. Thunderstorms, tropical lows, extreme heat in Western Australia, potential cyclone development. Stay informed. Check the Bureau of Meteorology website regularly. They'll have the most up-to-date warnings and forecasts. If severe weather warnings are issued for your area, take them seriously. The Bureau doesn't issue warnings lightly. They rebased on the best available data and forecasting models. When they say severe thunderstorms are possible or a tropical cyclone is developing, they mean it. For those on the Gold Coast looking at that 35-degree forecast for Sunday, along with the thunderstorm potential, it's going to be an uncomfortable day. Stay hydrated, stay indoors during the heat of the day if possible, and keep an eye on the sky. If storms develop, they could be strong. Mount Carbine, URE dealing with that humid heat and regular storms. That's your summer reality. Make sure you've got good drainage around your property. With that much rain in short periods, flash flooding is always a risk. Karkua down in New South Wales, you're in a good spot weather-wise for the next week. Mild temperatures, clear skies. Enjoy it while it lasts, because these pleasant conditions won't hang around forever. The key takeaway from all of this is that we're in an active weather pattern. Northern Australia is seeing typical wet season conditions, but amplified. Western Australia dealing with extreme heat and a developing cyclone. Queensland got thunderstorms and tropical lows. It has a lot happening at once, but none of it is unprecedented or unmanageable. Stay calm, stay informed, stay prepared. That's the best approach to any weather situation. Don't let the media or social media hype things up beyond what they are. Look at the official forecasts from the Bureau. Trust the data, not the drama. If you've got questions or concerns about the forecast, the Bureau of Meteorology has excellent resources on their website. They explain weather phenomena, how to read forecasts and warnings, and what to do in various severe weather situations. It's worth spending some time on their site, particularly if you are new to an area or haven't dealt with tropical cyclones or severe thunderstorms before. For farmers and graziers dealing with this weather, particularly in Queensland, these thunderstorms are a mixed blessing. You need the rain, but too much too fast causes problems. Flash flooding, soil erosion, damage to crops. If you've got livestock in low-lying areas, move them to higher ground before storms hit. Check your fences after heavy rain, as flooding can damage or wash away fence lines. The heat in Western Australia is going to stress livestock. Make sure they've got access to clean water and shade. Heat stress can kill cattle and sheep quickly in these temperatures. If you're remustering or moving stock, do it in the early morning or late evening when it's cooler. Right, I reckon that covers everything you need to know for the next week or so. To summarise, severe thunderstorms continue across inland Queensland today through Friday, with the peak day for southeastern Queensland being Sunday. Monday S uncertain, depending on whether wind shear increases. Tropical lows in the Coral Sea are weak and not a threat. Western Australia has a developing tropical cyclone heading for the Kimberley coast, likely making landfall late Friday night or Saturday morning as a Category 1 or weak Category 2. Extreme heat continues across WA, particularly in the Pilbara and Gascoyne regions. Be prepared, stay informed and don't panic. You've dealt with worse. You will deal with this. Just pay attention to the forecasts, have your emergency plans ready and look after yourselves and your neighbours. That's the